Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the Gundam Retrospective. Today we are deviating from the norm a little bit to go back and take a look at something from this franchise's past that I skipped over. It's been a while since I made videos on Gundam SEED and its sequel, Gundam SEED Destiny. Those were two big videos covering two 50-episode-long anime that, in my opinion, fell somewhere in the middle of the pack for the Gundam franchise. SEED I thought was pretty good, and while Destiny had a lot of issues, it's definitely still watchable, especially if you're a big fan of the cosmic era of Gundam. However, by the time I was done with Destiny, I just really wanted to move on, and I skipped over Gundam SEED Stargazer, a 3-episode OVA from 2006. Well, here we are in current day, and I think it's finally time to take a look at this side story. Gundam SEED Stargazer was originally released on the Bandai Channel website starting in July of 2006, and then it was all collected and released on DVD in November of that year. So technically, yes, it is an ONA or an original net animation. Stargazer is a side story of Gundam SEED Destiny in particular, and its story runs concurrent with a lot of the events in the anime, specifically the very infamous Break the World event. That being said, this OVA does pretty much require that you've seen SEED Destiny to know what's happening. The main plot is general enough that you could probably get by skimming some wiki articles to get up to speed, but I really wouldn't recommend that for people who aren't huge fans of the cosmic era of Gundam. Stargazer begins by showing the utter devastation of Gundam SEED Destiny's Break the World incident. Near the beginning of Destiny, terrorists made up of loyalists to the former Zaft leadership drop the remains of a colony called Junius 7 onto Earth. The chunks of the broken colony rain down and cause destruction across the globe. I mean, the episode in Destiny is literally named The End of the World, so it's pretty bad. Stargazer does a really great job at showing the audience just how much death this caused, as the entire opening is dedicated to a montage of Roland Emmerich level damage. While Gundam SEED is usually known for its bright colors and branding, the opening of Stargazer is muted and grounded. Whole cities that are normally inland are now flooded, and groups of refugees move across the tattered landscape under a torrent of rain and demoralizing gray skies. I really love that this movie went for this darker color grading because it matches the tone so well. Don't get me wrong, Gundam SEED and SEED Destiny are not exactly light viewing despite the outside appearances, and both seasons have some pretty brutal scenes, but Stargazer takes the time out of its 45-minute runtime to really let you wallow in that destroyed world, and it sets the tone incredibly well. Two people who are desperately trying to make it across this flooded landscape are from the Deep Space Survey and Development Organization, or D.S.S.D for short, and they're trying to get to a military HQ that is surprisingly still standing. They are Edmund DeCroix and Selene McGriff, and we see that Edmund's former status as an ex-major in the military comes in handy as they're able to hitch a ride and talk to a commander at the military base. It seems that Selene needs to make it to a space shuttle launch that's going to leave with or without her. They're given a small boat and just enough time to make it when the military HQ goes up in a fireball and Zaft mobile suits start attacking everybody. Edmund leaves Selene to head back to look for survivors, and he gets picked up by one of his former soldiers, and we get a pretty cool scene where they take out a mobile suit with a tank. During Selene's journey on the boat, she remembers all the time that Edmund was there for her, and his big, strong arms. I mean, goddamn, this is Mass Effect 2 Miranda level sexualization. We get some more mobile suit versus tank action, and the action is really cool here, especially because it's not relying on the beam spam one-hit kills that Gundam SEED is known for. But unlike in Halo 3, where tank beats everything, tank does not beat mobile suit for very long, as a missile hits Edmund's vehicle and blows him up. Selene makes it to the launch just in the nick of time, and as she heads to the space station Troya, we get a glimpse of the Gundam Stargazer for the first time. Meanwhile, we're introduced to another character named Sven, a pilot for the Earth Alliance's Special Operations Unit, Phantom Pain. Sven is a complicated character, and this OVA takes time to give us flashbacks so we can see what might be going on inside his head. And it's a good thing that they do, because without that explanation, Sven would probably be considered irredeemably evil by most people. Of course, Sven's situation in his life is not of his own making. Phantom Pain is a near psychopathic brigade of soldiers trained since childhood to absolutely hate coordinators. And just as a refresher, SEED and Destiny are all about the naturals versus coordinator ideology, with coordinators basically being the new types of SEED's world, with some distinct differences. Just to clue the audience in that a group named Phantom Pain might not be the most chill guys around, Stargazer has Sven and his squad mates Kuza and Muti destroy a refugee camp and not hold back on civilians. They don't shy away from showing it either. I feel like back in the late to mid 2000s, this is pretty high up there on the no Russian scale of things that would get Fox News watching parents all wound up. Sven pilots the Strike Noir Gundam, a modified offshoot of SEED Strike Gundam, and this one comes in black, so boy does it look good. But Sven isn't just adept at blowing up refugee camps. He and his squad wipe out a group of zapped mobile suits attacking a base with relative ease. And when Sven and Kuza head to a bar to unwind, they're met with a news report showing child terrorists chanting death to naturals. Stargazer doesn't mind bashing you over the head with its dark and edgy depiction of war, and honestly I think the OVA is better for it. All of this death and destruction is undercut with flashbacks to Sven's past, where we see he was a normal, happy child with loving parents who wanted nothing more than to be an astronomer. Sven's normal childhood was interrupted when both his parents were killed in a terrorist attack, and he was subsequently spirited away to a secret anti-coordinator training program that aimed to create obedient soldiers. The flashbacks to Sven's military training do include some cameos from characters like Azrael, but these returning characters don't really interact with the plot and serve more as an Easter egg to SEED fans. They also show how someone like Sven can open fire on civilians. Like I'm saying, it's a training program, but they do literally brainwash Sven as a child. It's some real Clockwork Orange style shit. Selene arrives at Troya Station and talks to a man named Dr. Nostrovich. And we learn that the Gundam Stargazer has been built by the D.S.S.D for one purpose: space exploration. The custom suit has a two-seater cockpit for use in testing, but ultimately that will be replaced with an AI core that will let the Stargazer travel the galaxy and probe planets. Along with the advanced AI is another very important piece of tech: the Void Shore Lumiere, a big halo-shaped backpack that can emit a field of light that can be used as a solar sail, enabling the suit for space exploration. The Voyager can also convert the energy of a large beam mounted to a satellite to fire their propulsion system, and the entire unit can be removed from the mobile suit to operate on its own. Overall, I think the Stargazer's design fits well with the tone of the movie. I mean, it's even got a grayish-white monocolor, and unlike the rest of SEED Gundams, it isn't carrying 25 different guns. Back down on Earth, we see Sven's Phantom Pain squad defend an Alliance land battleship from a bunch of BQs. This OVA kind of just took all the small things that I really enjoyed about SEED's world and threw them in here. This battleship is actually the Bonaparte, and the battle we see Sven's squad engage in is alluded to in SEED Destiny, as they're transporting the Destroy Gundam at this time. It's really interesting to see how many Easter eggs they included for fans of the SEED timeline. Also, I really do enjoy the inclusion of the BQs. Quadrupedal mechs are pretty rare in Gundam, and I just personally happen to like the design. We also get to see the dog mechs get a pretty brutal kill as they down Muti's Gundam Blue Duel and just maul it while it's on the ground, ripping the cockpit open and shredding her to pieces. It's like some sort of Cybertron nature documentary. Unfortunately, this ONA has a pretty short runtime, so the loss of a squad mate doesn't really have that much of a profound effect on Sven or Kuza. Kuza does sort of blame it on Sven in the moment, but afterwards they just don't really have time to mention it again. They get word that Phantom Pain's next operation will take place in space, and they ship out through the atmosphere. Another thing that Stargazer just doesn't have time to show is the passage of time. As the Stargazer is being tested, the war drags on and the Earth Alliance starts to lose its ground. This is apparent if you've seen SEED Destiny, but the pacing for Stargazer requires it to happen so fast that it seems almost immediate. Because the Alliance is taking losses, they start to look anywhere for a viable new weapon. And of course, they set their sights on the Stargazer Gundam, and in particular, its powerful AI core. The Earth Alliance's desperation leads to the inevitable confrontation between the civilian crew of Toria Station and the fleet led by Commander Joaquin. The station is not defenseless, however, and the D.S.S.D has outfitted its security personnel with civilian-use Astray custom mobile suits. While the Astrays don't get a ton of screen time, I need to applaud it, and anytime these awesome suits are actually animated. I think the red Astray from the original Astray manga is my favorite, but the D.S.S.D civilian design is also really good. It's just on the verge of being almost over-designed with its small details, but it works in SEED's art style. Of course, Phantom Pain's Gundams are way more than a match for anything the D.S.S.D can throw at them, and many of the Astray units are destroyed while attempting to defend the station. Not only do they contend with a mobile suit assault, but also boarders attacking the station as well, and at this point in the war, the Earth Alliance soldiers have no qualms about shooting civilian D.S.S.D workers. With no other choice, Selene and her co-test pilot Sol decide to use the Stargazer Gundam with its immense speed and powerful beam weaponry to defend the station. The Stargazer goes up against Sven and his Strike Noir, and they seem to be pretty evenly matched until Selene uses this beam emitter that the Stargazer has that can be used as a shield and also shoot out dangerous blades of energy. It's pretty cool. Kuza overextends his position during battle and runs out of power with his Buster Gundam, causing his phase shift armor to turn off. Yeah, that's one thing that's pretty unique about Gundam SEED. The Gundams are so tanky because of their special armor. It only lasts for a limited amount of time, and it kind of explains why all the Gundams are so brightly colored compared to all the other drab mobile suits in the SEED universe. This mistake costs Kuza his life, as the vulnerable Gundam is shot down as it helplessly drifts through the battlefield. By the time the battle has dragged on enough for a Gundam to run out of power, Joaquin's men have successfully obtained the AI data and escaped the station, causing the commander to order his men to disregard damaging it. Selene ejects Sol out of his seat in the cockpit, and wow man, ejecting out of a mech into the vacuum of space is one of the scariest things I can imagine happening. His chair has thrusters on it so he can maneuver back to the station or to a ship, but just the thought of drifting like that through nothing until your oxygen runs out makes my anxiety kick me in the ass. Selene comes up with the idea to take out the last surviving enemy Gundam on the field, the Strike Noir. She grapples onto it with the Stargazer and has the research station target her with the propulsion laser that I mentioned earlier. When combined with La Lumiere, the propulsion laser can power up the solar sail, but if it just blasts the mobile suits without that feature being primed, well, it causes fatal damage to the Strike Noir and sends both Gundams rocketing off into the void. They also target Commander Joaquin's ship with the propulsion laser and blow it up. Maybe they should just use this thing as a mounted defense weapon, goddamn. Although it probably costs too much energy to be efficient, but it's gotta be better than moving 1,000 tiny mirrors into the path of the sun, right? Surprisingly, Selene is alive in the Stargazer's cockpit, and pretty much unhurt, as the Strike Noir took the brunt of the damage. She's able to open up the Noir's cockpit and bring Sven over into the Stargazer, and by the time he wakes up, they've drifted somewhere between Earth and Venus. After siphoning the last of the Noir's energy, the Stargazer's life support systems will last for 27 days, which really isn't all that much when it comes to space travel. Sven is initially rightly confused as to why Selene would save his life, and she mostly just says that the thought of dying alone is sad, so she saved him. As the two watch the wreckage of the Strike Noir drift off into the void. As the Stargazer heads back towards Earth, Selene and Sven inject a drug that will put them in a near comatose sleep state to reduce oxygen usage. The two former enemies drift off into what may be a final sleep together. At least they don't have to face the unknown alone. As Sven passes out, his life flashes before his eyes, and we see those times during his training where he thought he was alone are actually times where people around him had his back. When Azrael complained about his performance in training, another soldier stood up for him, and even though Sven thought he was always alone, he had the found family of Phantom Pain, and no matter how twisted they might actually be, it did mean something. Initially, I thought this was how Stargazer was going to end, on a pretty somber note that leaves the fate of the characters ambiguous, but I was wrong. We see that Soul leads a D.S.S.D scout mission to find the Stargazer and recover Selene and Sven before they asphyxiate, and that is where Gundam SEED Stargazer ends. While I am glad to see this dour story end on a happy note, I do think that leaving the audience to wonder if they survived would have made for a better ending. There is a manga sequel to Stargazer that ran in Gundam Ace for 6 chapters in 2007 that gives a little bit more closure with the characters. Sven is offered the opportunity to join the D.S.S.D, with Selene's forgiveness of his actions reinforced by Edmund's philosophy of always looking forward and thinking of the future. It's a nice epilogue, and much like those Gundam Wing manga that came out a few years after that show debuted, it rounds out the characters and gives the events a little bit more context. So that was the story of Gundam SEED Stargazer. I think as a side project made to give SEED fans some more content, it achieves what it set out to do. If anything, Stargazer made me actually want to rewatch SEED since it's been a few years. Season 1, not Destiny. Maybe I'll just watch Fafnir instead. I'm glad I finally went back and watched this though. It actually might be my favorite piece of Gundam SEED media overall. Let me know down in the comments section if you've watched Stargazer, and if so, did you think it was a good addition to the overall story of Gundam SEED? Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Hey there everyone, and welcome to today's end card. I'm going to start off, as always, by thanking my channel members, aka Batosai, Azure, Windress, Brian Sanchez, Chris Goodnow, Daniel Johnson, Gert, Harmonious, Hidden Insanity, Jessica Solberg, Jay Lamb, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, Johnny G, Canto 20, McLean Nugent, Sindustries, The Crawl, Trey Hardy, Video Gamer 75, and Zappa Slave. Thank you all so much for continuing to be members. I actually need to make some new member badges. There are a bunch of you guys that have been members for long enough that you should have like 2 more, but I just forgot, basically. I'm also thinking of maybe doing some member benefits, but I don't know what, because you guys have been members for so long. I feel like if I start getting videos done early, maybe just early access to them would be really cool. Anyway, what's coming up next? Well, in the next couple of weeks, we will be continuing on with the G-Cucks vlog reviews. Those do pretty well for what they are. They're very quick to make, and people seem to be liking them and having interesting discussions in the comments. So I'm going to keep doing those until the season's over. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed. And then I'm going to have a video on Brain Powered, the 90s Tomino weird as hell show coming up. So that will be in the next, that will be by the end of May. And then as far as like what's next for the Gundam retrospective, I'm doing Gundam The Origin and then probably Thunderbolt for those. And whatever won the poll, I think it was Dunbine won the poll. So that one, I don't know how long that one will take, and if there's going to be anything besides those Gundam videos and Brain Powered before it, but that's a long show. It's 52 episodes or something like that. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm just kind of watching it in the background so far, but I'm excited for that video to come out. Anyway, what else is going on? Well, the Oblivion playthrough is going really well on the gaming channel. It's just been super fun to revisit that game. So if you want to see that gameplay, then go over there on that channel and check it out. Otherwise, I'm going to leave now because I'm just rambling. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, we will see you in a couple of days. Have a good one.